The visiting Rotarians today are from Lake Hickory, Jim Whitworth, Mike Durham, Floyd Lucas, and David Hood, and from Newton Conover, George Moretz. Hey.
All right, do we have any guests on my right side over here?
President-elect Mark, correct? It's my pleasure, if you could stand up, to introduce Robin Marin. Robin is the Director of Finance and Administration, or vice versa, Administration and Finance, at our Columbia campus in South Carolina, which is the location of the Lutheran Theological Southern Seminary, and now some additional non-theological graduate programs we're starting in Columbia. So I want to welcome Robin.
Welcome. Anybody else on my right side? Anybody down the center? Anybody down on my left side? All right. Rotary moment is Robert Bumgarner, who I was informed joined the club in '51. He's been a Rotarian for 63 years, part of 7 decades. And he's a past president. So welcome. I'm sure you've got plenty of knowledge to share with us.
Can you all hear me now? Yeah. Okay. Clarence Pugh recruited me to get back on the Sunshine Committee, and I'm delighted to be on it. And I'm delighted that the Sunshine Committee has now served its time in jail and is now active again. And I want to warn you that most all of my jokes are going to be old jokes, because that's all I know. I'm hoping they're so old that they made their rounds before some of you were born, and then there'll be new jokes for you. But before we get to the joke, I wanted to recognize the birthdays. This week we have Clem Geithner on the 5th, Dallas Avey, Raven Darren, George Furlong, Suzanne Trollen on the 6th, and Charles Young on the 8th. I don't believe Bob Schaffner's here today, but we wanted to congratulate him. He won the woodworking prize. I just think most of you saw that in the paper. But we also want to remember the people who were sick. And Bob Holland is down in Raleigh. And let's see, I believe we've got Rufus Walker and anybody else, Robert Hambrick. Anybody know anybody else that's sick today? Okay. Back when we used to have the Sunshine Report, and by the way, the Sunshine Report was originated in this club. Of all the clubs in the Rotary, the Sunshine Report started here. And anytime you go to another club and they have one, it's usually because one of the visiting Rotarians took it back with them. But we used to have some great Sunshine reporters. We had Jim Mitchell, who's Lamar's grandfather, and Jim Peden, and we had a Dr. Jim Whaley, who was from Charleston, and he lived here at least 50 years, and he never lost his Charleston accent. So all he had to do was get up and just say a few words, and that was funny. We didn't know what he was saying. But he was a good Sunshine reporter in those days. We used to tell a lot of lawyer jokes back in those days, and I think we ran that in the ground. So, Charlie Young, you can relax. This is not going to be a long time.
Might be outnumbered now, Bob.
Well, you are outnumbered. I have looked at the roster, and we've got more preachers than we do lawyers. So this is going to be a preacher story. It seems like there was a small town in the South where everybody knew everybody else, and they saw each other every Monday morning. And one of the preachers in the town was noted for always riding his bicycle, and he rode his bicycle everywhere. And one Monday morning, he came downtown walking, and one of his ministerial friends said, "Where is your bicycle?" And he said, "Well, somebody has stolen it." And he said, "Oh, that's bad." He said, "Really, the worst part of it is, I think that it was one of my congregation that stole it." So his preacher friend said, "Well, I tell you what we might do that you would get it back." He said, "Next Sunday, you preach a sermon, really kind of a hellfire and brimstone sermon on the 10 Commandments." And he said, "If we get to that, thou shalt not steal," said, "you really emphasize that, and maybe you'll get your bicycle back." So the next Monday morning, the preacher came to town riding on his bicycle. And he said, his preacher said, "Well," his friend said, I guess our plan worked, didn't it?" He said, "Yeah," he said, "it sort of worked like you said." He said, "What do you mean it sort of worked?" And he said, "Well, I preached on the 10 Commandments. And when I got to that commandment that said, 'Thou shalt not commit adultery,' then I remembered where I'd left that
You still got it, Bobby?
Tough act to follow there. Do we have any announcements today? We've got a couple here. You guys may remember Jasmine Charles came to speak to our club. She's with LR, and they have a Bear's Closet Foundation, which takes older suits or suits you can no longer wear, because I know everybody's getting thinner, so the seats that are too big for you, that they can use for the students that need to go on interviews and things along those lines. So if you can keep that in mind, if you have anything to donate to them, they're still taking those. And anything on the cycle challenge. It was a roaring success, correct? We had about 20 volunteers there, and a special thanks to, I believe, Ann Williams and Jill Patton, who really helped to put that together. Anybody that attended that have something that went well? And then we also have a volunteer opportunity. David's been talking about volunteer opportunities since he became president. We have with one of the groups that we give a large donation to, with Imagination Library and those folks. They are moving to a new home, and they need some help painting and taking down wallpaper and those type of things. And I believe Leslie has some flyers. There might be some at the table, or you can see her afterwards. There's some at the table. If you're interested, you can really come by anytime. Let her know if you could, just so they can kind of plan. But if not, just stop in. They'll have plenty of things to do. It's this Saturday and next Saturday from 9 to 4 at their new location, which is at 738 4th Street Southwest. I don't know if anybody saw the paper today, but I did want to bring up, saw the pink paper today actually, that apparently we've started a new committee here, the Hickory Public Schools Education Foundation. If you look at the people in the picture, about every one of them are in this Rotary Club. So Dr. Hart's in there, Mark Huckleby, Guy, Sandy, and Rusty are all on the board of that. So appreciate those folks doing that worthy cause, but practically all of our Rotarians. And with that, we'll move towards the speaker. And I am actually introducing the speaker as well today. You can read Mike Durham's information there in the spoke, so I'm not going to repeat that to you. But for those of you who don't know, he is a member of the Tuesday Club. He's been a Rotarian for almost as long as Mr. Bumgarner, 30 years, about halfway there. He's got 2 daughters, and most exciting thing that's just happened recently in his life, he's got a 3-month-old granddaughter. So without further ado, Mike Durham, thank you.
Ian Mark's going to be my assistant as well. So he's got a lot of jobs to do. Well, seeing I'm a fellow Rotarian, and I know quite a few of you guys in here, if I make a mistake, it's quite all right to laugh and point fingers.
Push the mic up.
Don't feel bad if you want to laugh at me. I didn't come today to sell you anything. What I came today to do was basically talk to you about our company a little bit and a little bit about the natural gas industry. I'm sure you've all seen a lot of things on television, heard a lot of things on the radio about what's going on with natural gas. There's a lot of misinformation out there. There's a lot of good information out there. But what's going on is really a good thing for our country and for our economy. So just wanted to come and clarify some things and let you know what's going on with us and what's going on within the industry. Slide, sir. One more. Okay, this is a picture of our footprint. We've got 1 million customers in North Carolina, South Carolina, and Tennessee. We serve residential, commercial, industrial, and power generation customers. Our company's more than 60 years old. We have approximately 1,800 employees in our system. We also have a joint venture in South Carolina where we have another 500,000 customers, and a joint venture with South Star, which is Georgia Natural Gas. Slide. Overview about Piedmont. Right now, we've got our assets are about $4.2 billion. 98% of it is utility business. 2% is in our joint ventures, which include other pipeline transmission companies, liquefied natural gas storage facilities, and also South Star. We have about 24,000 miles of distribution pipeline. Distribution pipeline are the lines that are in your street that actually serve your house. We have about 2,900 miles of transmission pipeline now. Those are the lines that actually run from the major pipelines into the cities that distribute gas in the distribution mains. Presently, we have about 68,000 horsepower compression being basically large engines that build up compression for the pipelines to keep the gas moving through the system. We have 3 liquefied natural gas storage facilities, one in Bentonville, North Carolina, one in Huntersville, North Carolina, and one in Nashville, Tennessee. We also have a joint venture in Stokesdale, North Carolina called Pine Needle, which is another storage facility. The storage facilities are only used during peak situations. Normally that comes in the winter for us, but now with the power generation that we're doing, we do see some of that happening in the summer as well. These are our strategic directives. I'm going to read them to you. But basically, natural gas has a lot of great benefits for our customers, and we expand our business and do it in a way that adds value to our customers and our stakeholders. One of the main things we look at is promoting excellent customer service and doing it in a way that will help us in the long run to make sure they are happy. That will bring our stakeholder value up and our stockholder value up as well. So those things are very important to us. Won't read them out to you. They're pretty easy to read there. Slide. Our sustainability goals, and these are very important to us. Number one is always think safety. When you run a natural gas company, a natural gas pipeline system, that is the most important asset you have. Without pipeline integrity and making sure that you have all the safety improvements that you can have on that system is the most important thing. We are committed to the sustainability, and it's based on the idea that responsible stewardship will drive tangible and positive results. So these things are what we do. We pursue excellence in customer service after safety. We empower and engage our employees and make the decisions at the lowest possible level, which means that we can make decisions quicker and bring them into play quicker. Our employees are also very important in our communities. We give them 8 hours a year paid time off to work in the community at a nonprofit of their choice. They also help on the company sponsor events as well, so we're very proud of our employees and what they do. So we help develop our communities by being a part of the communities, not only through our employee volunteerism, but also through our philanthropic efforts in the communities. And of course, this is going to create shareholder value and stakeholder value as well. Slide. Now about the industry, everybody's heard of shale gas, right? Not the gas company that sells shale gasoline, but the shale gas that is in the news nowadays. The United States has a huge reserve of natural gas and shale plays. The three largest ones are the Bakken, which is up in North Dakota area. Another one is the Barnett, which actually sits below Fort Worth, Texas. And then, of course, the Marcellus, which is what you're hearing more about than any of the other plays. If you can see the Marcellus, which is in the northeast, and compare it to the rest of the plays, you can see how much potential that one play has. It includes the Utica play, the Ohio play, and also the Marcellus play. Some of you may have heard about our pipeline, the Atlantic Coast Pipeline, that we just announced in the last month or so. It's going to run from West Virginia to Lumberton, North Carolina. It's a $5 billion project. We're in partnership with Duke Energy, Williams Pipeline, and Dominion Resources, and Atlanta Gas Light in that particular project. It'll run from the mountains of West Virginia, and believe me, running a gas line that's 36 inches, actually at that point 42 inches in mountainous areas, North Carolina, is going to be quite a feat. So it's probably going to take 3 to 4 years to get it done, but it'll bring natural gas service to an area that does not really have enough natural gas to help them in their economic development efforts. So it's a big deal. It's a big deal for them. It's a very big deal for North Carolina and our economic development activities. So we're looking forward to that. That's going to be a great thing. And it should help to keep the prices low again, too. So instead of having just one supplier coming into town, or into the state, I should say, we're going to have 2 pipelines coming into the state. So it's a very big thing. Next. And these are the supply forecasts. The top 2, the shale gas reserves and the tight gas reserves, are the 2 that actually involve shale. In 2005, we really didn't know what we had until we started developing more of it and using the hydraulic fracturing method. Hydraulic fracturing meaning that they can go down and then take a 90-degree turn and run another 5,000 or 6,000 feet. Hydraulic fracturing is done anywhere from 8,000 to 12,000 feet down. So we feel like it's something that can be done responsibly. We're not producers. We're a local distribution company, so we just push the gas through the system. But it is important for our economy, for our energy security. It's a very big deal. Natural gas can be used in a lot of different ways, including vehicles, and that's starting to take play right now, actually in 18-wheelers. So if you can get that done, the price, number one, is going to be cheaper for the truckers, and it's also going to reduce the CO2 emissions in a significant way. So it's a lot of good things going on. You start looking at power generation as well. Duke Power right now is our single largest customer. Matter of fact, the gas they use in 1 year is more than the throughput for all the rest of our customers combined. So, and this has only happened in the last 4 or 5 years since they actually converted 7 of their 14 North Carolina, actually Carolina's power plants from coal to natural gas. They've also seen a reduction in CO2 emissions down to a level back into the late 1990s. So this has only happened over a 4 or 5 year span. So you can see what happens when you start taking coal out of play. It's a huge thing. Coal is, it was very cheap, but it's very dirty, and you can see with the ash ponds now, there's going to be a problem with that. The mercury, the arsenic, all those things that could possibly go into the waterways. With natural gas, you have none of that. Natural gas is cheap now. The outlook for the future is that it's going to stay cheap. So Duke plans to do more. We've actually got another project planned for Anderson, South Carolina, where we're going to be running a transmission line to another plant to convert it. So it's a big deal. In the southeast, a lot of the coal is used for power generation. So to get that out would be a great thing. So Duke and Piedmont has a really good relationship. We used to be big-time rivals, but not anymore. So it's a good thing for everybody. Slide. This is a more complicated slide, but just let me tell you that when you produce electricity and you start looking at everything that it takes to produce it, number one, another energy source, unless it's water or hydro, by the time you produce it and the line losses, by the time it gets to the customer's location, it's lost 68% of the efficiency, the 100% efficiency. So actually when you get to the house, you have 32% efficiency on your appliance. The natural gas, by the time you take it out of the ground, it's processed a little bit. The line loss is included, it's 92%. It used to be that the federal government would look at efficiencies from the site only, meaning that when the appliance was running, it's from whatever was plugged into the appliance or whether natural gas was plugged into the appliance. Now it's looked at from source to site, which is the true efficiency measure. So this was a big deal. This is something that's happened again in the last 5 years. So when you start looking at these things, you start thinking about electricity, you start thinking about maybe an electric car that doesn't have a carbon footprint, it's actually not true at all. In this area, they're getting their electricity most of the time, or was most of the time, from coal. So an electric car actually had a carbon footprint. So these types of measures help customers make better informed decisions about what to use and what's happening in their own homes. Slide. Again, natural gas is the cleanest of the fossil fuels. We understand and we agree that at one point in the future that fossil fuels should be moved out, that there's not going to be a place for them. But until that time, there has to be some kind of bridge fuel that you can use till recoverables and renewables will take over. So they look right now, that's probably going to be 40 to 50 years out with the current technology that we know about. And we're all for it. If you look at solar, it's going to have a backup. Natural gas is the obvious backup of choice. We're all for it. We understand what's happening in the industry, the energy industry, so we're trying to help and trying to be there and trying to make the biggest impact and the most helpful impact that we can. Slide. Again, something else about, another slide about greenhouse gas emissions. When you're looking at this, in 1970 we had about 40 million natural gas customers. Since that time we've grown, and this is in 2008, probably now it's probably more like close to 78, 79 million customers. But you see the line in the middle. The line in the middle represents the CO2 emissions that have taken place from natural gas equipment. It hasn't gone up. And the reason it hasn't gone up is, number one, is because we've taught our customers to be more efficient. Number two, the equipment's become much, much more efficient, all the way up to almost 99% on some equipment. So this is a good measure of what natural gas can do and what it is doing. Piedmont's investments in our infrastructure very quickly. What we're doing started in 2013 and it's continuing this year and next. I'm sure you guys remember all the natural gas explosions and things that were in the news. A lot of that came from pipelines not being properly maintained. What we're doing is making sure, and we have already done that we don't have any cast iron pipe, exposed pipe in the ground. So we're past that. We're way ahead of the curve on other natural gas utilities. We have a very new system, and we're expending the money to keep that system up. We expect to, by the time we're finished next year, to have spent close to $600 million on pipeline upgrades. What we're seeing here, a picture is on the top, is an injection line for what you see on the bottom, which they call a mechanical pig. That pig actually runs through the pipeline, and the sensors in it can sense any kind of corrosion and can actually measure the thickness of the pipe. So we're right now busy putting these injection systems in and also straightening out corners. Believe it or not, the engineers used to make corners in a pipeline system, which is not very good, but rounding those corners out so that pigs can go through our system completely. And as soon as we're done with them, we start testing those systems. So we're all top of that, and we're all about pipeline integrity and making sure our customers are safe, and our communities for sure. So what you've heard today is my 5-minute elevator speech, which may have been 10 minutes. It's who we are. We're a natural gas energy company, or a local distribution company. We're not a processor. And we have our operations in North Carolina, South Carolina, and Tennessee. Again, safety is our #1 priority. We want to make sure that our customers, our employees too, and our communities are safe. Care is our key word. Care meaning comfortable, affordable, reliable, and efficient. I didn't make that up. I wish I could claim that, but I didn't make it up. Customer service excellence. We spend a lot of time and money making sure that our call centers are up to date with the newest technology to make sure our customers' calls are handled properly. Luckily, we don't have a lot of problems. We don't have gas outages most of the time. Maybe once in a while, we might have a small one, but nothing widespread like in an ice storm where you might have electrical outlets, but outages. But we strive to make sure our customers are happy. Right now, we're #4 in the nation among natural gas utilities and customer service, and we're trying to move that up to the top. Again, our communities, if our communities strive, we strive. So we're going to help in the communities any way we can and get our employees involved as well. Questions? Yes, ma'am.
Are you saying that someday that New Power will light our house with natural gas?
We're doing it now.
We're doing it now? So when there is an ice storm or power outage, we wouldn't lose power in the same way because it's underground, or?
Not true. Yeah, it's not, the power itself is not going to come in underground. It's still going to be transmitted the same way it is now. It'll just be generated differently. It's generated with natural gas, then it's run across our system. So if the lines go down, we're still not going to have electricity. Yes, sir.
When I have some discussions with younger friends, including my middle son, I will get back from them in discussing energy that you can't drill enough to change prices. It seems to me that your industry has already proven that wrong. Is it a pretty simple and correct argument that if we did tap these resources, it's going to drive prices down?
That's already occurred too,
Yeah.
probably in the last 7 to 8 years. If you remember, probably 8, 9 years ago, natural gas was probably around $13 a decatherm. Is that unit that they measure? Now it's down about $4 a decatherm. We look that it will continue to be there into the very near future and probably far beyond that. The only thing that could stop that from happening is the drillers, the processors, doing the process wrong. You may have seen the paper not too long ago that Duke Power Duke University came out. They had been against fracking and saying that it was contaminated aquifers. They've changed that as recently as the last 2 weeks. Not only Duke, but 4 of the major universities saying that actually it doesn't, because it's too deep for it to migrate up through that rock to get into an aquifer that's maybe 500 feet deep. So what they're saying now is that the way the hole is made, the sealing in the hole, when they drill a hole is the problem. If it's not sealed properly and the walls aren't done properly on the well, then that's where the contamination can come from. So we know it can be done responsibly, but they have to take the time and energy to do it properly.
This son's coming here this weekend to enjoy some LR football. Could I get you to come by the house?
Have them email me. I'll be glad to send some information. Absolutely. Yes, sir.
Can you compare the known gas reserves with the known oil reserves, and then what countries stand to benefit from the gas reserves like OPEC has benefited from oil reserves?
Well, natural gas has always been an American fuel. 98% of the gas that we have is American. So we could actually become a net exporter. There's a lot of talk in Congress now about whether we want to do that or not. But number one, you have to remember we're a free enterprise. So if these guys decide they want to export it, that's going to be their decision. We export oil, but we also import oil. We don't import a lot of natural gas because liquefied natural gas is very expensive to bring in. So there's only a couple of terminals that can accept it. There's no need for it, with natural gas being as cheap as it is. But right now, with the reserves that we know of and the technology that we have, we could be not only the biggest natural gas producer, but also the biggest oil producer as well. So it's pretty amazing. Yes, sir.
I was looking at the EIA
Right.
website, Energy Information Agency, I think. It's a government agency. I immediately questioned whether the numbers are right, but the numbers, looking at residential prices per 1,000 cubic feet, I think early this year in February, when it was all nice and cold, were like $11 to $12 per 1,000 cubic feet. And it looked like in July they spiked up to $17 a cubic foot or per 1,000 cubic feet. Why would that be?
Well, when you start getting into the futures markets, normally when you go into winter, you'll see a little spike, and those prices will either stay there or come down depending on what the forecast is for the winter. And each month as you go further into the season. That's not something I get involved with on the pricing side, but I have noticed that as well. But you'll notice that too, that natural gas futures are already coming down. So that means that the prices for natural gas for the residential customer will also come back down where it should be. Even with the last year and the last 4 or 5 years, residential prices have come down 30 to 40%. Even with Piedmont's increase that we had last year, we're still looking at that dollar amount still to be between 20 and 30% cheaper than it was 4 years ago.
There's been a fair amount of discussion nationally and of late about infrastructure and catastrophic failures of cast iron pipes. Did I understand you to say that you have replaced the cast iron pipes?
Well, number one, in our system is a lot newer than what they find in the Northeast, and where you're finding these failures are in the Northeast mainly. Our system is not nearly as old as their system. Our cast iron pipes, number one, we didn't put a lot of it in, so it was a lot cheaper for us to go back and replace it, and it wasn't as time-consuming or problematic as the problems they're going to have in the larger cities. So we're in real good shape. We do use coated and wrapped steel pipe and on the transmission lines and the smaller transmission lines, but anything lower than that is all plastic, which should have a lifetime of 100 years. So our system is very good. We're very proud of it. We spend a lot of money on it, a lot of technology, and make sure it's going to be up and running the proper way and protect our customers and our communities, for sure. You can imagine as a company what a catastrophic incident would cause us. So we know that. We saw what happened out in California with St. Bruno. We're making steps to make sure if we have a transmission line like that, it's not going to be routed through a neighborhood. And if it is, like in St. Bruno, what happened is the neighborhood grew to the pipeline. Didn't leave enough room for it. So what we're looking at is trying to make sure that that doesn't happen. And if we see it starting to happen, then we'll reroute that line away from it. So that possibility is not going to exist. So it's just that simple. Any other questions? Great. Thank you, guys. I appreciate it.
Mike, thank you very much, and we're going to present you with something you're very familiar with, a plaque of the 4-way test.
Very good.
Thank you. All right, Robert Locke. He's got our Service Above Self raffle. As he makes his way up here, don't forget coins in the Alzheimer's research buckets. Online makeup instructions are in the spoke. If you look at this one, you may want to straight through to his program. Forget about me fumbling through the first part. Other announcements, don't forget about the service opportunity for the next 2 Saturdays. You can use those hours as volunteer hours that David's been talking about the last couple of weeks. And also thank you to everybody that participated in the Carolina Cycle Challenge and volunteered for that. We took in $77 today. We have 32 cards and 1 joker. We're up to $1,411 right now. All right, 544162. 162. We get Clarence.
I appreciate the second chance.
162, correct. We've got a correct call of bingo.
Here's the card. Worth
Right
nothing.
suit, right.
Worth a free lunch. 7 of clubs. I'd like to thank our visitor, Robin, today, and our visiting Rotarians, Jim, Mike, Floyd, David, and George. And let's close with the 4-way test. Of the things we think, they're all concerned.